Hello, Transurfer and the Transurfing Curious. My name is Renee Garcia and this is TransurfingTV. Today we're going to be talking about addiction. I know I gave a lesson on something sort of similar, pleasure seeking, not too long ago. This is essentially what addiction is, or what it initially starts out as, and then as we all know, it turns into something much more sinister than just getting a little bit of pleasure when we can. We actually end up becoming a puppet, if you will, to our addictions. And I don't know, I mean, from my perspective, I personally do not know a single person that does not suffer from some sort of addiction, right? I really do believe that the human mind is definitely, there's something there where like no one is immune to this thing. Either you got an addiction to something major, like a sex addiction, drugs and alcohol, maybe addiction to like harming yourself or something like that. Or it could be something like an addiction to food, or an addiction to reading, or an addiction to self-help stuff, an addiction to something. Now, maybe a lesser damaging addiction, but still keeping an eye on this sort of behavior and understanding when it flips from being something that's benefiting us to something we keep returning to, trying to get that initial benefit, but maybe end up paying dearly instead. This is really where it's at. Remember to like this video and comment below. My world is taking care of me, to enter my daily giveaway for my reprogramming stickers, Reality 2.0 teachable course down below, and the link to the Facebook group. Check it out. And please subscribe, everybody. We appreciate your energetic contribution here at TransurfingTV. So, here's the transurfing perspective on addiction. Let's say you are, and I have a video very similar to this. I think it's called Addiction. If you want to go back and look at that one, I think I did it originally when I started this channel. So it's probably going to be more or less the exact same information. But for those of you that are not aware of how addiction ends up affecting our reality creation practice, it's pretty substantial actually. So let's say you just found reality transurfing, right? You just found reality transurfing and you're like, oh, this is so cool. This whole thing with reality creation, and I get to choose and I can connect with more of what I want, right? So more of what you want is definitely the stuff that exists on some of these higher lifelines. So you encounter transurfing, and for those of you that know my visual representation that I follow for myself, that on any given day I have 10 perceived layers of reality that I can access. The bottom layer is like me, bottomed out, depressed, feeling horrible in bed, feeling as though life's meaningless and really not resonating at a very high frequency at all. This is like level 1, right? And then level 10 is I'm up on the wave of success. I'm accessing all that stuff on the higher tracks. Things are going well. My world looks beautiful and I love it, right? I love life and reality is good. Usually I'm probably like in between these, right? I used to be definitely down here. Maybe once in a while I'd get over this sort of midway section, but kind of infrequently. More so I was down here. But let's say you encounter transurfing and you're halfway, right? You're halfway. Reality is neither good nor bad, but you do have an addiction. Let's say your addiction is smoking weed or getting drunk or hooking up or whatever it is. So you're here and you have your addiction, and your addiction when you partake in whatever you fancy, your addiction helps you to feel as though you're up here, right? It's borrowing energy, essentially. The more energy you take back for yourself from pendulums, and the more you are able to manage your energetic expenditure towards things that do not serve you or your intentions, you have more of the ability to use your energy to do things to get yourself up onto some of these higher life tracks. Now, this is where addiction comes in. Addiction gives you the perception that you're doing this, but it's not real. You borrow energy that puts you up, right? Getting high, right? This is why it's called getting high. You are getting higher up in your levels of energy, in your thinking, in your mindset, and you are perceiving yourself as going up to some of these higher lifelines, when in fact it is just an illusion. This is how the pendulums keep you hooked in, right? It's just an illusion, it's not real. And the worst part about it is, not only do you have to pay back that energy you borrowed, but that energy you borrowed is paid back with interest. So you end up not only back where you were once the high is done, whatever the high was, you actually go lower because there's interest due on that repayment. So the interest due is like if you go out and you get drunk, right? You go out, you get drunk, you're like, oh, life's good, I'm partying with my friends, everything's awesome, I'm loving life. And then the next morning you wake up and you're like, oh my God, I want to kill myself. Right? So again, you surpass where you even started out when you decided to partake. You go down even lower. And of course, this is even more extreme when you get into drugs, right? Especially things like ecstasy and some of these drugs that really get your endorphins high. You're really borrowing a lot of energy, and then you really have to pay it back, right? There really is a cost to borrowing that energy in the first place. So here is where addiction really, really messes you up. If you do this once in a while, right? If you are the type of person that gets drunk on New Year's Eve and that's it, you can recoup. You know, you're going to wake up in the next morning, you're going to feel like hell, but you can self-care and self-love and treat yourself right and get yourself back up to that base where you started at. Here's the problem though. There's a lot of energy expenditure in doing this. Okay? And this is what most addictions do. Is you're constantly in a state of high, low, paying back interest, high, paying back interest, low, paying back, you know, and it never, ever, ever stops. Now, the energy loss that happens in between all of this, in my opinion, and I know this from my own experiences in my life, because I've battled with pretty major addictions to drugs and alcohol and sex and all kinds of stuff, that it is virtually impossible for you to create your own reality when this is happening. You will never actually gain an energetic benefit to where you can create your own reality. All your energy is getting lost in this up and down state. So as I learned myself, once I brought awareness to what I was doing, even with the drinking, right? I went sober for 5 solid years in between 30 to 35 years old, no drinking, no drugs, nothing. I was completely sober for 5 years, and I really addressed this whole thing. Now, this was even pre-transurfing. Now, after I broke my 5-year sobriety, and I decided once in a while I could have a couple of drinks, or once in a while I could smoke a little bit of weed or do whatever. From my transurfing mindset, from the knowledge that I have, I know now what it actually does to me. So I am very, very, very cautious about when I do partake in something that I know I am going to have to pay back that gain with interest. So I've talked about this before, but I will state it again. If I know that I'm going to be going out and people are going to be having drinks, there's a good chance that maybe I'm going to have a couple of drinks, I make sure that the days leading up to me going out with friends, that I do everything in my power to get my frequency up beforehand. I make sure that my thought quality is very high. I make sure that I'm very well cared for, that I've eaten well, that I'm fully hydrated, that I've really, really taken care of myself. That way, let's say I'm right here, and then I go out and I drink, and then the next day I only go down to here, and then it doesn't take me very much to get myself back up to where I started. But I never, ever, ever, ever drink from a place of like my midline or lower. Because drinking or taking any type of drug or doing anything where there's going to be that payback with interest, if I'm midline or lower, now this is like your reality is neither good nor bad. So if you're in a place where your reality is neither good nor bad, and then you go down a few levels, that's going to be way too low. And again, getting yourself back up to that midline, there's a lot of energy lost there. So what it boils down to is I pretty much don't drink anymore. I pretty much don't drink, and I pretty much don't take any drugs. Once in a while I take like a CBD edible that has maybe 1% THC if I really feel like it's a special occasion or something like that. A very, very, very subtle mind shift. But anything where there's an extreme amount of interest due, I just don't do it, simply because I need my energy to create my own reality, right? I mean, I'm doing a lot of like content creation. I have the whole transurfing world sort of, I'm at the helm of the ship. I'm steering the wheel. So I am not really in a position where I feel I can afford going down to some of these lower levels, because I'm not going to be able to do what I need to do if I am at those lower levels. So the reason really that I'm giving this video right now is I'm not sure when this is going to air, but I know a lot of people have been struggling with addiction issues since the whole pandemic thing has happened, staying at home, drinking more, smoking more weed, all that kind of stuff. And with Biden just being elected president, I know that he said he is going to, in fact, impose a nationwide lockdown again. So we're going to revert back to where we were a number of months ago and really ask yourself now, if you are challenged by lockdown, addiction, creating your own reality, all this kind of stuff, how can you take back some of your control and not get lost into, well, this is the way things are, I may as well have a couple of drinks and smoke a blunt and blah, blah, blah. And then you're down here, well, we're on lockdown, so how can I really create my own reality anyway? You can, but you definitely have to wake up and be like, okay, I'm going to use this time to do something positive and beneficial for myself, and I'm not going to just give in to my human draw towards making myself pleasure seeking, making myself feel better, but knowing now, since I'm passing this information on to you, that there's going to be a price to pay for that, right? So let's just start by anybody who's brave enough. comment below what your addiction is, right? Is it alcohol? Is it drugs? Is it sex? Is it social media? Is it news? Is it whatever? Because remember, all that stuff you have to pay back with interest, right? So comment below what your addiction is, and maybe we set a challenge on the Facebook group that we're going to do 30 days of ensuring that we're not doing this. Wow, I mean, this is really quite crazy if you look at it. This is what addiction is. This is exactly, I know there's a lot of scribble here and you're like, what the hell is going on with this chart? But this is what addiction looks like. It is your energetic levels just going absolutely nuts, right? So where are you susceptible? Where are you, what can you do now to provide a little bit of safeguard for yourself? Where can you draw some attention to some addictions and sort of draw a line in the sand and be like, okay, I'm not going to do this right now. I'm actually going to focus on my health. Maybe become addicted to self-care. And I've been talking about this one a lot lately. Being addicted to self-care does not pose any problems, right? It is all positive. There is only gain with self-care. So how can you switch over maybe into self-care mode, keep yourself up here, keep yourself creating, keep yourself creating your own reality, and stop this insanity cycle of giving into your addiction and constantly having a debt to pay back energetically. So let me know your thoughts, everybody. Thank you so much for watching. Remember to like this video, comment below, subscribe, all that good stuff, and have a good day. Bye, guys.